Hello friends and welcome. Today let's talk about how to be a good support in patch 7.32c. This is a little bit of a meta update, I guess, quick and casual because TI happened, so I don't know when the next patch is going to come out. So this is what I think is good, kind of my own opinions on it, what's been working for me, and hopefully it'll help you out for however long we have this patch left. First, let's talk about the new mindset. Now, this has been building up for the last couple patches, so this may not come as a surprise, but maybe if you're new to the game or a returning player, it's different, right? Where you should not be as sacrificial as you used to be before, which is crazy, especially if you're an older player. Back in the day, 15 minutes, I've got brown boots pretty good, right? I'm building wards and consumables and all that, and it's fine. But nowadays, if you have brown boots at like 15 minutes, you're probably playing pretty badly. You shouldn't be giving up that much of yourself anymore at the start, at least, right? You want a closer game than you used to, because supports and cores are closer than ever. That's not to say that they're the same. We still have pretty defined roles, I would say, in terms of like we help the cores do their own thing, right? But it's not like, please take my lunch money as well, sir, right? It's more teamwork, right? I'm gonna get a little bit of gold myself so that I can use it to help you out. Not, I'm gonna give you all the gold and you do everything, right? While I do like warding and small stuff. Okay, so it's a better split than it used to be before. Hard support and soft support, 4 and 5, they're also closer than they used to be. This is where it's probably a good point to say Pro Dota is obviously different from Pub Dota, but if we take a look at TI, you'll notice that the 4 and 5 roles were doing something a little new than what they used to, which is that you would see people play different lanes, right? Oh, that's a Tusk, why is he in the safe lane? Or like, oh, that's a Silencer, but he's in the 4 lane, or the off lane, right? Why are they doing that? It's because it's more about playing good Dota. Whichever lane matchup's going to be better, that's what you want to do. And then as the game moves on, you kind of transition to like, hey, you're more important in this game. Why don't you get more farm than me? Because I actually only need 2,000 gold to do my job, even though I'm the 4 support. So I actually don't need that much. Why don't you take it? And of course, the 5 support goes, yeah, I've never had this before. Okay, right? So Pro Dota is doing that a lot. Pub Dota is still a little more strict in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 farming priority. However, Pub Dota is also really bad, in terms of acquiring all the farm on the map. So it's very easy for you to identify as a support, I need a bit of gold. Like, I can have a lot of impact if I get this money. Let me just look at the minimap. All my cores are in the jungle. Let me go to the top lane and get some gold. And in that way, you can kind of close this gap yourself, even if your teammates don't necessarily understand that this is happening in the meta. But that support roles and support versus core, it's getting closer and closer, so don't feel so bad to farm within reason, right? We're still not cores, we're still not farming as much as they are, but you're farming more than you used to. You don't want to end the game with like no items, and in fact, you should probably have 2, maybe 3 medium-sized items by the end of most games, especially if you're winning. Maybe if you're losing, you have a bit less, but it just should not be so poor as it used to be. You should have a little bit more gold. Feel free to take a couple last hits. We could probably talk more about this, and I think I will in the future, but like I said, the patch could change at any moment, and I don't really know, so let's keep this quick and casual for now. Just don't feel as guilty if you're taking some last hits, but of course, if cores are nearby and they're able to get that farm, probably let them get it unless you're close to a certain item. But be looking for these opportunities to farm more than you used to have to. That concept also manifests itself in the laning stage. So nowadays, and actually I guess the last couple patches as well, we're emphasizing strong lanes more than we used to. So one way is to spend more time in lane harassing or denying creeps. That's the big one. That's really helped me out. And I think a lot of people are not quite doing. They're pulling a bit more, which is the old way to do it, but now we're not going to do that as much, only when I have to or when it's free, because I just killed them and I got nothing else to do. Okay, I'll go do a pull and fix equilibrium. That's still fine. But if I have the choice between maybe I go do a half pull and stack, or maybe I keep playing this lane, I'm actually more likely to stay in the lane nowadays, which, like I said, is a switch up from the past, where it's like, give the carry all this XP, right? And I'll stay low level. But back then, the XP was a little different. So when you gave a lot of XP to your carry, they hit levels faster than they are now. And you, the guy giving up a lot of XP, you still hit some decent levels because you didn't need as much XP. Now the XP requirements are a little higher this patch. So when you give up a lot of XP, you're actually still really low level and you really can't contribute much because you're level 3 at 10 minutes. That's not very useful. And your carry, he was like, oh, I gave him all the XP, right? He's huge. He's like level 8, and you're like, oh, that's weird. He was like level 10 last time and using those levels to farm and do a lot. But he's just not anymore because the XP levels are different from what they used to be. So what we're doing now is we're splitting more evenly up to about level 3, I would say. And that's where you have probably 2 points in one skill, or maybe you have 1 point in every skill. But that is a significant thing for supports, right? Either you have all your abilities and you can use them whichever way to have impact, or you've got 2 points in one ability, and it probably is just straight up doubled in value in many cases, right? The mana cost maybe goes up by like 10 mana, but the damage is twice what it used to be. So being level 2 versus being level 3 has always been really a big power spike, but now it's a little more important to both hit that. I don't know how deep I want to dive into it in this video because I'm still kind of exploring this concept a bit as well. Let's just go with it, okay? Just trust me on this. Playing the lane has felt a lot better than trying to do pulls. And not that you should shove the lane, but, you know, as pub Dota goes, that happens a lot. What you can try instead is stay in the lane. Don't immediately go do a small pull, right? Let's say the first wave pushes out and you're like, oh, better go do a small pull. You maybe don't have to do that. What you can try to do is stay in the lane, keep going for denies, shove the lane out into the enemy's tower and let it die there, and that will reset your lane. And in the meantime, while you're doing that, try to take a good trade because you have a lot of creeps built up and they can't really fight you. So harass them out, and when they're gone, go for denies in front of their face. Or you can try to do a hard camp pull. So I guess I'm talking from the perspective of the safe lane. You shove out the lane, you go do a hard camp pull, and that one kind of helps your lane, right? Because a small camp pull, even if you pull the whole wave, kills your small camp, probably pushes out the lane again potentially, depending how things are going. But the hard camp can do more work on your creep, so it's more likely to actually fix your equilibrium. But the added benefit is you don't have to leave the lane as much. The small camp pretty far away when you're shoving the lane. Your carry's in danger. You're all the way over here getting no XP. It doesn't even necessarily fix your lane. You do a hard camp pull, you're pretty much always within XP range. You're always close enough to help your carry, especially if they like shift over a little bit to help you. And the hard camp is more likely to do work for you to fix your lane. Again, there is circumstances to every lane and every matchup, so sometimes you will still do the small camp pull, but give this a shot if you've never tried it, especially if you're playing strong supports, which you kind of should be right now. It's kind of the meta. And as part of all this, you're buying more upfront value items. So instead of like the greedier Sage's masks, Ring of Health, try to go like long-term, win this lane at like 7-8 minutes, headdress start, stuff like that. We're getting a lot of tangos. We're getting like salves, mangoes, iron branches, sticks, things that just give you more damage and more survivability up front to play a scrappier laning stage. You go for these denies with your extra damage, you go for the harass, you heal up so you can keep doing it, and you kind of buy items for that. Again, exceptions to all matchups and everything, but this is just something that's happening a lot. Take a look at the popular supports, take a look at their starting items, you'll notice this trend. Actually, don't just take my word for it. Here's Dota 2 Pro Tracker, so these are the heroes people are playing nowadays. So let's start at position 5, Crystal Maiden, despite what many people think. A very strong laning support with very aggressive potential if you just buy a couple mangoes, and then very good for that early tempo. Silencer, very strong laner. Disruptor, I'd say actually mediocre lane, but with the Glimpse change, much better at transitioning to that active playstyle, which is pretty good right now. Undying, king of the laning stage, if you really want to win a matchup, right? Lich, pretty strong. Mirana, lots of right clicks. Also free to transition pretty quickly like a Disruptor into very active gameplay. Marcy, Clockwork, Jakiro, Witch Doctor, right? Which of these is a very weak support? None of them. Enchantress, right? All very powerful supports in the laning stage who can put out a lot of harass, play the lane very well. Let's take a look at position 4. Tiny, maybe not the best laner in the world, but creep dragging exists for position 4, so any bad matchups, you just pull the creeps around. Tinies have also switched to picking up their E level 1, so they have this damage bonus and this tree throw, so that you can try to secure the range creeps and go for denies, stuff like that. So you can even see Tinies adapting to play the lanes a bit more than they used to. Rubik, Mirana, Marcy, Tusk, Hoodwink, all decent laners. Earthshaker, creep drag, creep block. Nyx, Creep Drag, Skywrath, Harass. You know, like, you just see all this. There's no one that's like, you're just an awful laner, right? You're here for the late game. You're not going to do anything early. Everyone is pretty strong, and they're building items for it. In fact, let's go back to position 5 real quick. Let's check out some Crystal Maiden games. What's your starting item builds, Crystal Maidens? Let's take a look. Okay, we got our tangos, we got our mangoes for the spam, branches, fairy fires, lots of spam stuff, some stats, stick, very fighting oriented items. You don't see like very like Sage's Mask kind of things, just a very slow lane. These are very aggressive builds. Picking out another one, Silencer. Look at all these stats and extra damage they're using to harass a lot. Branches, circlets, all of this, so they can just fight more in the early game. Tangos, mangoes to spam out their spells. Just very aggressive heroes, and then itemizing towards that play as well. One more example, just to keep it at a nice 3. Mirana, look at these iron branches, circlets, fairy fires, building fast wraith bands. You know, these are all items oriented towards sticking in the laning stage and being really annoying. For Mirana, that's tons of right clicks. For other heroes, it's lots of spells. You're seeing mangoes, sticks, clarities. Sticks have been going up because I'm building to use a lot of spells. He's building to use a lot of spells. We both want that extra value, and when he gets value from his stick, he's going to cast more spells. That's going to give me more stick charges to cast more spells from me as well. So you're seeing a lot of these types of itemizations, which is just be annoying in the laning stage, play the lane a lot, be very strong so you can have a good laning stage and transition that into an early game where you're going to be active as well. Last tip for everyone, Wraith Pact is a great item, probably the item of the patch right now. If you don't know, here are the stats. The build-up is not even that bad. Buckler and Bassi, and then after you win a team fight or two, you can just finish up the whole Vlad, since for most supports, Morbid Mask, Blades of Attack don't really, contribute that much. But those first 2 aura items are actually pretty nice for the meta going on right now, which is that the exact reason, I guess, isn't that important, but my theory is due to Roshan getting that extra value and that scaling value as you get to like the 2nd, 3rd, 4th Roshan, all of that. Teams have been going for an earlier tempo and trying to secure that first Rosh to start snowballing their lead so they can secure the second, and so on and so forth. All of that has involved more grouping, things like that. So Wraith Pact has been great. The aura is awesome for many carries, many mids, many offlaners, and this active is nuts. This is really what makes Wraith Pact so good, is that damage reduction. 30% damage reduction is insane. So for example, armor, 7 armor gets you 30% roughly physical damage reduction. The next 30% is, I think, 27 armor, and then the next 30% pushing you at 90 is like 140 or something. Now, damage reduction and armor and damage manipulation, all that stuff actually doesn't like necessarily go additively. So it's not like, oh, get like 60% worth of armor reduction plus this Wraith Pact puts us at 90. It's not quite like that. Let's not worry about it. The point is, 30% is a lot of value at all stages of the game, especially when you're grouping up early. Now, the totem can be destroyed in 4 hits, so in that sense, it's like, oh, maybe, is that such a big deal? It kind of is, even into the late game, because if a carry, a super farmed carry, has to hit a totem 4 times versus an enemy hero 4 times, like, the Daedalus, huge crits and everything, right? 4 hits could kill a hero. Probably kills you as a support player, but it could kill carries as well in certain matchups. So having to kill the totem or just take a 30% damage reduction is a huge deal, even as you get to the late game where people have like moon shards and everything and are killing it super fast. I'd rather them kill the totem than me. So this item is really good. Typically, the offlaner should build it. That's probably the best person to build it. However, part of what's good about many meta supports right now is that they have very flexible itemization. So if you're offlaner and no one else on your team can build the Wraith Pact, you should consider it for yourself. 5 positions have a little bit harder time doing it, right? Because Wraith Pact is 4K gold, but 4 support should definitely find it very feasible to build the Wraith Pact. And many 5s who have like some kind of farming ability can make it to a Wraith Pact by the end of the game as well. Maybe it's only an early game at that point, but whatever, right? You can get the Wraith Pact in most games. So it really is a super strong item because of the grouping and everything. And like I said, in pubs, even if your teams aren't grouping early and doing all that stuff, Wraith Pact will have value later on as well for eventually when it happens. That's not to say you can't still get like Glimmer, Force Staff, Aether Lens at the start of fights, or sorry, at the start of the games. You can do that still if you think those are really important items. I'm not saying, don't do that, but strongly consider the Wraith Pact. If no one else is building it, really ask yourself, like, can I build it, or is there anything else I have to have instead? Because Wraith Pact is such a good item right now, and it will get nerfed in the next patch. Like I said, quick and easy, really not going to go super into depth of each concepts, but if you want, I will be posting a live game, me kind of trying to apply some of this stuff, as well as doing a couple replays over the next, if you're not in the US, it's a holiday season coming up, so I'll have these lined up so you can check out and kind of see me explain these principles, how they apply in the game if you want some examples like that. So check those out if you're interested. But, if you get all this and you just want to go try it, feel free and let me know if it's working out for you the same way it's been working out for me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.